Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we really try to unpack the ideas that are genuinely reshaping our world. And today, we're grappling with a question that could, well, fundamentally redefine how you think about your money, your work, and frankly, the very cost of living. What if the very core of our economic system, the prices of absolutely everything, were about to undergo a seismic, maybe even unprecedented shift? We're talking about a profound, perhaps even startling, deflationary wave that artificial intelligence seems poised to unleash across, well, nearly every sector. This is a vision laid out by the truly insightful Tenenbaum.
That's exactly right. And this deep dive, it's really all about trying to anticipate the financial implications of AI. We need to move beyond just the general idea of AI changing our life, though it certainly will. It's more about how we can truly understand and maybe even prepare for its financial impact. Everything from the cost of your morning coffee to the price of a house, even how you get around town. It's a truly fascinating and, yeah, for some, perhaps a bit unsettling prospect.
Absolutely. It's a lot to take in. So, our mission today is really to unpack Tenenbaum's compelling arguments, drawing directly from the materials you've shared with us. We'll explore how AI's efficiency isn't just some technological advancement in a vacuum. It's actually a powerful economic force that he argues will dramatically lower costs, reshape entire industries, and, yeah, fundamentally alter our relationship with work, with value, and with money itself.
And it's really crucial to remember up front where this perspective is coming from. All the views we're discussing today stem directly from Tenenbaum's financial analyses and perspectives. So this content is provided solely for informational and educational purposes. It's about understanding his viewpoint. The opinions expressed here don't constitute financial, legal, or investment advice, and they really shouldn't be taken as such. Always consult with a qualified professional in your jurisdiction before making any financial decisions. Just standard procedure.
Absolutely. Great point. Okay, so let's unpack this and dive right in. Tenenbaum predicts what he calls the dawn of AI agents and a completely new pricing paradigm. He introduces this concept of the AI agent as, well, essentially the ultimate intermediary between you and the world.
Right.
Think of it almost like a deeply personalized digital assistant, one that knows you maybe better than you know yourself. It's not just a fancy search engine. He sees it as an autonomous proxy for your economic desire.
Right, exactly. And this agent is designed to be intimately familiar with your preferences. Imagine it knowing, without you even having to spell it out every single time, that you always prefer business class in every economy,
Right.
or that you consistently go for, say, a quiet boutique hotel near the beach over some bustling, family-friendly resort up in the mountains. It even learns your really specific needs, like instinctively knowing you fancy a weekend trip in October, maybe to a specific kind of climate you enjoy. It's this level of granular detail and, frankly, predictive understanding that empowers it to optimize everything on your behalf.
And here's where its operational model really diverges from anything we've seen before, according to Tenenbaum. This agent doesn't just sit there waiting for your input. It proactively seeks out hotels, flights, even restaurants based precisely on those preferences and, crucially, your budget. Its mission is always the same. Find you the best, the cheapest.
Mhm.
It's not just about convenience anymore. It's about this relentless, constant optimization.
Indeed. And this isn't just, a smarter search function. This level of personalization combined with its proactive nature, that's what sets the stage for the kind of unprecedented efficiency and the profound deflationary pressures Tenenbaum is talking about. It's not just finding an option, it's finding the absolute optimal option tailored specifically to you, basically around the clock.
Now, you might be thinking, well, my current AI search, like asking a chatbot to find me a flight, that already feels pretty efficient. But Tenenbaum points out a really critical inefficiency in that current model. Even if an AI agent checks multiple sites, Orbitz, Expedia, individual airline sites, maybe local travel agencies like Despegar, that whole process, surprisingly, is actually highly inefficient for the AI itself.
That's right. Because each search instance, each query the AI makes, it multiplies its expense, its computational cost. An agent might have to essentially talk to 7 different travel agencies or airlines, right?
Oh.
That means opening up multiple instances of its computational power, incurring costs for the large language models it's built on. So while it seems lightning fast for us, the user, this current method isn't the most streamlined or cost-effective approach for the underlying AI infrastructure. And this inherent inefficiency, Tenenbaum argues, is what will inevitably push the system towards a much more radical approach.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. According to Tenenbaum, this is a big leap. He predicts that these AI agents will evolve from merely searching multiple sites to actively participating in global auctions.
Auctions, right?
And he sees two fascinating forms this auction participation will take. The first is direct auctioning by the agent itself.
Okay, so how does that work?
Well, in this scenario, your AI agent will directly auction your request, say, for that flight or hotel to companies globally. Imagine it broadcasting to all relevant businesses, essentially in one go, I have a passenger with these specific needs.
Yeah, and their identity is completely hidden.
Exactly. Their name, their location, their browsing history, all of it completely anonymous.
And that anonymity factor is absolutely crucial, isn't it?
Totally. As Tenenbaum emphasizes, companies will not know the buyer's identity. This isn't just some minor detail. He argues it fundamentally shatters current pricing power. It eliminates what Tenenbaum colorfully described as pricing based on your face.
Yeah. I remember him mentioning that.
He even shared a personal anecdote about this exact thing happening to him. He saw a flight price jump up after he didn't buy it immediately, only for the price to magically return to the original when he checked using a different browser or device. Classic dynamic pricing.
Designed to extract maximum value from you based on what they think you'll pay.
Precisely.
So the profound impact of this anonymity, then, is that it strips away all those hidden markups and the price discrimination we currently face, often without even realizing it.
Yeah.
Tenenbaum gives that example, right? Companies knowing they maybe need to charge Egyptians less because generally they have less disposable income.
Right.
Or conversely, charging Argentinians more because maybe they have stronger purchasing power at that moment or are perceived to. In this new auction model, none of that information, your perceived wealth, your nationality, your browsing habits, none of it is available to the sellers. They're just bidding for a pure, unidentifiable demand signal.
Exactly. So your AI agent would put out a request like, okay, I need a business class, nonstop flight, Buenos Aires to Cali, October 7th to 15th. Who gives me the best price? And all the relevant airlines and maybe even brokers will bid for it. This forces everyone to offer much, much cheaper prices because they're competing fiercely for this anonymous customer. It's pure, unadulterated price competition. The only variable left is the actual value you can offer for that specific service at that moment.
It's fascinating. And it doesn't stop with individual agents, does it?
No, that's the second form Tenenbaum envisions. Collective agent auctions.
Okay. So agents teaming up.
Yeah. Imagine 50 or more AI agents, all representing different people, but all having similar or even identical travel needs. Let's say 50 people all need that same business class flight from BA to Cali on the same dates. Their agents could band together anonymously.
Wow. That collective buying power, amplified by the anonymity. That would drive prices down even further, surely. It's like a hyper-efficient global group buying mechanism, but automated and invisible.
And Tenenbaum connects this directly to his core argument, right? This very important and very large deflationary process. He stresses this isn't just about airline tickets or even just travel in general.
No, he makes it clear it applies across the board.
Right. To consumer goods like sneakers or, those high-end pressure cookers he mentioned, or even large-scale corporate purchases like buying new computers for an entire company. Every purchase, every service, potentially funneled through this anonymous, hyper-competitive bidding system.
Exactly. Imagine your company's AI agent putting out a request. We need 500 new laptops, these specs, best price.
Yeah.
All the manufacturers, the distributors, they just bid against each other. It fundamentally shifts the power dynamic away from the seller and towards the buyer, or rather towards this anonymous collective AI buyer.
So how significant are we talking here? What kind of price reduction does he estimate?
He puts a number on, potentially 20 to 40% depending on the sector.
20 to 40%. That's massive, almost unthinkable across the entire economy. It sounds amazing for consumers, but potentially devastating for entire industries. What are the immediate knock-on effects? Does this lead to like a winner-take-all situation for the cheapest suppliers?
Well, that's where Tenenbaum starts exploring some really fascinating, almost speculative market dynamics. It definitely raises that important question about what happens to remaining stock, especially for things with limited inventory.
Right.
He considers the idea of agents potentially, strategically, buying up remaining stock. Imagine a scenario where an agent identifies, say, a flight or a specific type of product with only a few items left. And it calculates, okay, airline A's flight is half full. Optimal strategy is buy all remaining seats right now.
Whoa. So the agent could corner the market temporarily.
Potentially, yeah. It's a fascinating speculative path. The agent could gain temporary monopoly control over that scarce resource for that specific flight or time slot.
Does this apply to everything, though? Like, would my agent try to buy up all the pots and pans?
Probably not. Tenenbaum distinguishes here. He thinks it's less likely for high-stock, commoditized items like pots or shoes, where inventory is vast and easily replenished. But it's much more plausible for things with genuinely limited stock. Airline seats on one specific flight, a particular hotel room on a given night, maybe a limited edition sneaker drop. Once an agent gains control of a large chunk of that limited stock, they could theoretically influence the price, maybe creating a small, temporary price increase for anyone who comes after them, wanting that specific thing.
Interesting. So it's not all just deflation. There could be these micro-monopolies.
Possibly. But he also points out the flip side. AI can provide an incredible level of predictability for suppliers, too. It can advise them on sales chances. For instance, telling an airline, based on all the data, there's a 70% chance you'll sell this specific seat in October at price X. This allows suppliers to optimize their own inventory and pricing strategies with unprecedented accuracy. It helps them avoid overstocking, too. So you have this kind of symbiotic relationship, AI agents optimizing for buyers, AI insights optimizing for sellers, creating this incredibly fluid, price-competitive environment overall.
Okay, so we've talked about this profound shift in how we buy things thanks to these AI agents, but Tenenbaum's insights go way beyond just individual purchases, don't they?
Yeah.
He argues this ripples outwards, fundamentally reshaping entire industries. He talks about a corporate travel collapse.
Right.
Let's start there with the sector many of us interact with, especially those traveling for work.
Yeah, and the current oversupply of hotel rooms, particularly in big cities, metropolitan areas, that's already a tangible sign of this shift Tenenbaum describes. It's not theoretical. You can see it happening now.
That's so true. Tenenbaum really explores how these AI-driven changes in corporate behavior are already hitting established industries hard. Corporate travel is a prime example. He details this significant structural shift. Corporate meetings are rapidly moving from in-person gatherings to virtual ones. It's just easier, cheaper, and often more efficient now. This dramatically reduces the need for traditional business travel flights, hotels, meals out. He shared that quite poignant anecdote about his friend who owns hotels in Buenos Aires and other major cities. This friend was lamenting losing their most profitable segment, those corporate clients. The ones who used to stay for days, hold meetings, run up big bills dining in the hotel. They've just stopped coming, he said, and they're not coming back. It's a permanent change.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture Tenenbaum paints, the consequence is this permanent excess stock of hotel rooms. This isn't just a temporary dip that'll bounce back when the economy recovers. No, it's a structural change. It's driven by the enhanced capabilities of virtual communication, collaboration tools, all increasingly powered by AI. So what are the solutions? Tenenbaum speculates that hotels, especially those geared towards business travelers in city centers, might have no choice but to convert their spaces into apartments, maybe other forms of residential housing.
And Tenenbaum even connects this glut of hotel rooms to a larger potential societal shift. It gets complex. He says, look, if AI leads to mass unemployment, or maybe more accurately, mass job displacement, and the state, as a result, starts providing some form of fixed basic income to a large part of the population.
Right, the UBI scenario.
Yeah. Then suddenly, you might have more people with a guaranteed, though maybe modest, income stream specifically for housing. This could actually create a new market for these converted hotel spaces, which, ironically, could drive demand for mortgage credit. But that presents its own set of challenges for banks in the deflationary low interest rate world he also predicts. It's all interconnected.
Speaking of banks, yeah, this profound deflationary wave inevitably washes over the financial sector, too.
So how does this massive deflation, this downward pressure on prices, impact banks and lending specifically?
Well, the link, as Tenenbaum explains it, is pretty direct. Deflation, especially when combined with the kind of mass unemployment he describes, which he calls brutal, but definitely non-traditional.
Right. Let's clarify that type of unemployment again.
Yeah, it's important. He differentiates it really clearly. It's not people actively looking for jobs in the way we usually measure unemployment. Rather, it's a situation where traditional jobs simply cease to exist for a significant chunk of the population. They're automated away, or the industry disappears. He even goes so far as to say they're almost like dead in terms of job seeking. They're not counted in the traditional metrics because they've stopped looking, or the type of job they did just isn't there anymore. This isn't some cyclical downturn. He sees it as a fundamental structural transformation of the labor market itself.
Okay, got it. So it's structural, not cyclical.
Exactly. And this has profound implications for banks. Lower interest rates, which he sees as inevitable in a deflationary world, perhaps pushed by central banks like the Fed, they mean shrinking margins for the bank's core businesses,
Hmm.
especially lending and mortgages.
How so?
Well, banks traditionally make money on the spread, right? The difference between the interest they pay depositors and the interest they charge borrowers. When overall interest rates plummet towards zero or even go negative, something we saw glimpses of during the pandemic,
Right.
that spread collapses. There's just very little room for profit there. So banks will have basically no choice. They'll have to lower prices for their services, find entirely new business models that don't rely on interest rate spreads, or, well, some might just go out of business.
Mm.
He sees it as a direct attack on their profitability and ultimately their survival in their current form.
And Tenenbaum actually identifies specific types of businesses that he thinks are poised to disappear or be drastically reshaped, precisely because AI starts offering equivalent services for free or close to it.
Yeah, he names names.
He points to the advertising industry first. Mentions how WPP, a huge global ad company, saw a big 30% drop in revenue already, and he expects that to accelerate. Like, why pay an agency when AI can generate targeted campaigns? He also names web design platforms like Wix, online course providers like Coursera, even language learning apps like Duolingo.
And the reason he predicts their demise, or at least radical transformation, is simple and frankly stark. AI can now offer equivalent, or sometimes even better, services for virtually no marginal cost.
Yeah.
He argues that ChatGPT-5, for example, with its advanced language capabilities, essentially made Duolingo's core business model obsolete overnight. It can provide personalized language instruction on demand, potentially for free. And he gives that really compelling illustration of this race to the bottom playing out right now. OpenAI recently offered free licenses of its sophisticated AI to the entire U.S. government for a year. What happens? Immediately, competitors like Anthropic and Google felt forced to follow suit, offering their own powerful AI models for free or drastically reduced prices. This is what Tenenbaum calls the eyes strategy. Remember that from the dot-com bubble?
Yeah, get the eyeballs first, figure out monetization later.
Exactly. Capture as many users as possible by offering free services, hoping to monetize them much later once you have market dominance. The difference now, he argues, is the sheer speed and intensity of this price war. It makes profitability an increasingly elusive goal for many established tech companies, let alone newcomers.
Okay, let's shift focus now to something even more fundamental in our economy, food and raw materials. Agriculture. How does AI create efficiency here, and what does that mean for the price of, well, everything that grows?
AI's role in agriculture is potentially nothing short of revolutionary, according to Tenenbaum. It vastly improves weather prediction, right? Enabling farmers to make smarter, real-time decisions about planting, harvesting, managing risks. It optimizes crop management through precision farming using sensors, drones, data analysis to deliver exactly what each plant needs, where it needs it. This significantly increases yield per hectare, so more food from the same amount of land. And it dramatically reduces the need for costly inputs like fertilizers, pesticides, irrigation water, even tractor fuel, because it's all applied precisely and often automated.
And what's fascinating here is Tenenbaum's analogy that virtuous circle for the producer but vicious for the input seller. Can you unpack that?
Sure, so initially an individual farmer, let's say she adopts AI first, she might significantly increase her margins because she can suddenly plant double the output on her land with AI's help, using fewer resources. That's the virtuous part for her. But when everyone adopts AI, when it becomes widespread,
The market gets flooded.
exactly, widespread adoption floods the global market with agricultural products. This global surge in supply will inevitably drive down commodity prices, wheat, corn, soy, you name it, across the board. So the individual producer benefits from efficiency gains, but the market price for their output plummets because now everyone is equally efficient. That's the vicious part for the sellers of inputs, like fertilizer companies, because demand for their products drops.
And this then impacts the value of the land itself.
Logically, yes. If the land yields less monetary value for its output because the commodity prices have tanked, then the price of the land itself should eventually decrease too. However, Tenenbaum points out a crucial potential upside here. AI-driven efficiency could make previously unproductive or marginal land highly productive. He uses the example of the dry pampas in Argentina, areas that currently yield very little. AI could potentially transform them into fertile agricultural zones. This opens up vast new agricultural frontiers, which, again, further increases global supply and reinforces that overall deflationary trend in food prices. This isn't just about saving money on groceries. It could fundamentally change the global food supply chain and availability.
And you mentioned earlier, this efficiency extends beyond just the farm gate, right? Into logistics.
Absolutely. If transportation and logistics become dramatically cheaper and simpler due to AI optimization, better routing, autonomous vehicles, drone delivery,
Mm.
then geographical distance becomes much less of a barrier for commerce.
Mm.
Goods can be moved globally with unprecedented efficiency and cost-effectiveness, further contributing to the overall deflationary pressure on basically everything physical.
Right. It all connects.
Exactly. The cascading effect is pretty undeniable in his view. Lower commodity prices mean lower prices for seed sellers, fertilizer sellers, equipment manufacturers, and so on, as their own input costs fall and demand potentially shifts. It creates this chain reaction of price reduction rippling through the entire supply chain. And as Tenenbaum points out, the increasing automation in farming itself, robotic tractors, automated harvesting will lead to even more efficiency and even lower prices, eventually removing a lot of human labor costs from the equation in many areas of agriculture. We're potentially talking about food that is essentially almost free to produce, incurring only the base cost of raw materials and energy. It's a radical shift.
Okay, let's move into some really profound societal shifts now, particularly how this impacts something as fundamental as our disposable income. And then maybe we can delve into healthcare, law, and logistics more deeply. Tenenbaum makes this really counterintuitive point about real wages versus disposable income. Can you explain that paradox?
Yeah, it's a critical distinction, especially when we think about how we measure economic well-being. He explains this paradox where, in some situations today, real wages might technically rise above inflation, which sounds good, right?
Yeah, okay.
Your paycheck is nominally bigger than inflation. But your actual disposable income, the money left after essentials, can actually decrease. Why? Because the cost of essential services, rent, utilities, phone bills, insurance often rises much faster than the general inflation rate and faster than those wage increases.
So your paycheck is bigger, but you feel poorer because essentials eat up more of it.
Precisely. Now contrast that with the AI-driven future Tenenbaum describes. In that scenario, where traditional salaries might eventually disappear for many people due to automation, the state would likely step in to provide some form of fixed basic income, just to ensure everyone have a floor. Now consider the power of deflation on that fixed income. It's remarkable. In a deflationary world where prices are constantly falling, that fixed amount of money gains purchasing power over time. That $1,000 or whatever the amount is that you receive today, well, tomorrow it will buy more groceries, more essential goods, more leisure activities. He says it effectively acts like it has an inherent interest rate, constantly increasing in real value.
Wow. So what does this mean for the individual then in that potential future?
It means a significant potential increase in actual disposable income for those receiving state support. Even if the nominal amount of money they receive is fixed, its real purchasing power expands continuously as the cost of goods and many services plummets. Their fixed income stretches much, much further. It fundamentally alters the whole equation of wealth and well-being.
It's a completely different way of thinking about wealth, isn't it?
Totally. We're so conditioned to think about earning more, climbing the salary ladder. But Tenenbaum argues that in this future, the key metric won't be how much money you get, but how much that money buys.
Okay, now, when we talk about this level of automation leading to job displacement, there's often resistance. You hear it all the time. People instinctively say, but what about my plumber? Surely some hands-on services seem utterly irreplaceable by a robot or AI. Tenenbaum tackles this classic plumber analogy head-on, doesn't he?
He does. And his counter is quite provocative. His vision isn't necessarily about a humanoid robot coming to fix your leaky faucet, though maybe that happens too. He speculates more about AI inventing solutions that make the plumber obsolete in the first place. For instance, maybe it's a smart device you insert into your toilet that uses sensors and AI to prevent clogs indefinitely. Or maybe it's smart pipes that can self-diagnose and perhaps even self-repair minor issues before they become major problems.
So preventing the problem rather than fixing it.
It's exactly. While our current system is built around human plumbers reacting to problems and charging for their time and expertise, Tenenbaum focuses on the marginal cost of providing that service. That's the cost of producing one additional unit or delivering one more instance of the service. If AI makes that marginal cost zero or near zero, either by preventing the problem entirely or providing an instant automated fix when it does occur, then the entire economic model for that service just flips. The need for a traditional human plumber, and thus the high cost associated with their service, diminishes drastically. Eventually, he suggests it could become almost obsolete for many common issues.
Okay, that's a fascinating way to reframe it. Let's delve into another area where costs are a huge concern for everyone, healthcare. This is potentially one of the most impactful areas Tenenbaum discusses.
Absolutely. And his insights here could genuinely be a game changer for affordability and access. He highlights a really crucial, maybe slightly obscure legal point right now. AI invented drugs. Currently, the prevailing view in many courts, though it hasn't definitively hit the U.S. Supreme Court for a final say, is that drugs invented solely by AI are deemed not patentable.
Not patentable, why?
The legal reasoning often hinges on the concept of human inventorship. Traditionally, patent law requires a human inventor. If an AI system, without significant human inventive contribution, comes up with a new drug molecule, it falls into this legal gray area. Often the result is that it cannot be patented under current laws.
Okay, and the immediate consequence of that.
The immediate and profound consequence is the direct creation of generic drugs, right from day one. It completely bypasses the decades-long patent protection that pharmaceutical companies currently rely on. That protection is what allows them to charge extremely high prices to recoup R&D and make profits. Tenenbaum illustrates the potential price collapse with that stark example of a hepatitis C drug. It once cost something like $70,000 per year per patient.
Unbelievable.
He suggests that with AI-driven invention making it non-patentable and maybe manufacturing handled by robots in highly automated factories, that same life-saving drug could potentially cost mere cents per dose to produce. Just imagine the global health impact if essential medicines became virtually free to produce and distribute.
That would be incredible. And the knock-on effect for insurance.
Well, it would naturally lead to a dramatic drop in health insurance premiums, wouldn't it? If the underlying cost of treatments and pharmaceuticals plummets, insurance just becomes fundamentally cheaper. And Tenenbaum even speculates about the emergence of entirely new kinds of insurance companies, maybe AI-only insurers. These companies might only require AI agents to manage claims processing, risk assessment, and agreements with hospitals. They wouldn't need vast human staff, call centers, complex administrative overheads. Now, he does acknowledge that some human roles in healthcare, like nurses, might persist longer than, say, plumbers, especially for the aspects involving direct patient care, empathy, comfort. But the overall trend across the healthcare system, he argues, is undeniably toward automation, efficiency, and massive cost reduction. The goal becomes making quality care universally accessible and truly affordable.
Moving on to the legal system, another area often seen as complex and expensive. Tenenbaum explores how AI could simplify and potentially even diminish legal disputes themselves.
Yeah, he starts with things already happening. AI's ability to handle basic legal tasks like contesting parking or traffic tickets. We see services like Do Not Pay doing that in the US already. But then he takes it much further into more complex areas.
How so?
His more provocative idea is that AI could eventually function as a truly objective arbitrator in many types of disputes, significantly reducing the need for lengthy, expensive traditional litigation. He even shared that humorous personal anecdote, didn't he, asking ChatGPT to settle marital disputes with his wife.
Yes. Leading to fewer arguments, apparently.
Right. And while it's a funny example, it highlights a really serious point about the potential power of an unbiased, data-driven arbiter.
And this actually raises an important question about the very nature of justice, doesn't it?
It does. As Tenenbaum puts it, maybe justice isn't always about finding some absolute capital T truth, which can be elusive anyway. Maybe it's more about finding arrangements, about achieving acceptance from both parties involved, finding a resolution that both sides can live with, even if they don't love it.
So what are the advantages of an AI judge or arbitrator in achieving that acceptance?
Well, he argues the key advantage is the removal of human biases. You wouldn't need to worry about dressing well for an AI judge, for instance, or worry if the judge is having a bad day, or if their personal beliefs or past experiences might unconsciously influence their judgment. This potential for true objectivity could lead to outcomes that are perceived as fairer, are delivered much faster, and are ultimately more easily accepted by the parties. And if we connect this back to the broader societal shifts, he predicts fewer traditional businesses, different employment structures there might simply be fewer things to even litigate about in the first place. Many common disputes today, like employment disagreements or complex commercial contract breaches, might just diminish in frequency.
And the efficiency aspect is staggering, too. He mentioned a potential throughput.
Yeah, he threw out a number like AI systems potentially handling 150,000 lawsuits per second. I mean, that's just an unimaginable level of processing power compared to our current human bottleneck legal system.
Right.
Promises not just cost reduction, but unprecedented speed and potentially much wider access to dispute resolution for everyone.
Absolutely. The automation of legal processes, drafting documents, legal research, discovery, it's already happening to some extent.
Right. And Tenenbaum sees this fundamentally changing the cost structure of legal services, potentially bringing real justice, or at least efficient resolution, within reach for everybody, regardless of their financial means.
Okay, let's just quickly conclude this section by touching on the efficiency gains in moving physical goods, revolutionizing transportation and logistics.
Right. The core idea here is pretty straightforward. AI will optimize logistics to an incredible degree. It will determine precisely how, when, and where goods should be transported to be cheapest, fastest, and most efficient, coordinating everything from massive container ships down to the last-mile delivery drone.
And it's not just the routing, right? It's the vehicles themselves.
Exactly. He sees fuel becoming cheaper due to various innovations, maybe alternative energy sources becoming more viable, and the vehicles themselves, whether they're electric trucks, autonomous ships, or something else entirely, will become much more efficient and largely autonomous, driving down operating and labor costs dramatically. Think about self-driving trucks that can operate 24/7 without needing brakes, slashing transit times, and labor costs almost to zero for long hauls.
And Tenenbaum paints that really futuristic picture of drones, doesn't he?
Yeah, the heavy lift drone future. He describes large electric drones potentially carrying heavy containers, doing the work that today's trucks do, and the consequence. Maybe highways become largely empty of commercial traffic. Imagine that highways used primarily for leisure, for people traveling, not for hauling goods. It's a vision that radically redefines our infrastructure, our cities, even our daily commutes.
So the summary for transport is
Better, faster, cheaper, and crucially, much, much safer. The current inefficiencies, the human errors that cause accidents, the massive fuel consumption tied to traditional trucking, AI could drastically reduce all of that. Plus, the sheer volume of goods that could be moved would likely increase exponentially, while the cost per unit of transport approaches zero. It's another absolutely critical component feeding into that broader deflationary wave he predicts.
okay, now here's where it gets really interesting, maybe even a bit daunting. The pace of all this change. Tenenbaum talks about the timeline and speed, calling it the accelerator. He argues these transformations will happen far faster than any previous technological revolution.
Yeah, he identifies competition as the absolute key driver, the accelerator pedal. His logic is simple. If one farm, say, becomes 20% more efficient using AI,
All the other farms have to follow suit fast or they just go out of business.
exactly, it becomes an immediate competitive necessity. It's a fierce, continuous arms race of efficiency. The only way to survive in that environment is to adopt the new technology and keep innovating almost immediately. There's no room to wait and see.
And we're already seeing this play out with, as you mentioned, brutal clarity in the AI industry itself.
Absolutely. Tenenbaum uses that real-world example of OpenAI strategy, basically giving away powerful services like versions of GPT. What did that do? It immediately forced competitors like Grok or Google or Anthropic to make their own advanced AI models free or significantly cheaper just to stay in the game. It's this war of diminishing prices, this race to the bottom to become the indispensable industry standard. And he strongly believes this intense price competition isn't ending anytime soon, certainly not in the next 2 or 3 years. It's not just about price. It's about establishing market share and technological dominance in a landscape that's evolving incredibly rapidly.
He even shared how this acceleration impacts him personally, right? That feeling of waking up every day.
Yeah, expecting to be surprised by some new AI application or breakthrough, even on weekends. He mentioned reading a vast amount of material daily, and it's just this constant, relentless stream of new applied innovations emerging literally every day. There's no pause button, no moment to really catch your breath and fully digest it all before the next thing hits.
And this relentless speed, this acceleration, directly informs Tenenbaum's prediction about interest rates collapsing.
Yes, he sees it as an almost inevitable consequence. With deflation taking hold, driven by this AI-fueled efficiency, central banks will be under immense pressure to lower rates, possibly even going negative, as we discussed. And that's why he suggests that buying long-term bonds today, like, say, U.S. 30-year bonds currently yielding around 5%, might turn out to be a poor investment in this rapidly deflating future he envisions. Because if your money is already gaining purchasing power just by sitting still due to falling prices, deflation, then the nominal interest rate offered by bonds becomes far less attractive, maybe even irrelevant.
So is this going to be like flipping a switch? A sudden, dramatic, overnight shift across the whole economy? Or is it more gradual?
He leans toward the latter, but maybe gradual isn't quite the right word. He views it not as some ordered, sweeping process that happens everywhere at once. He describes it more as fragmented, like splotches appearing or holes being punched in a jungle.
Splotches, holes in a jungle. What does he mean by that?
He means we'll see pockets of intense, highly disruptive change emerging rapidly in certain sectors or specific industries, while other areas might appear relatively untouched for a bit longer. It won't be a neat, synchronized revolution where everything changes on the same schedule. It'll be uneven, patchy, maybe even chaotic at times.
And are we already seeing signs of this fragmentation?
He argues yes. We're seeing people losing jobs already. Maybe not always in huge headline-grabbing mass layoffs at a single company, but in more scattered, sometimes surprising ways across different industries, little pockets of disruption adding up. It points to that really shocking statistic he found, a reported 50% unemployment rate for recent computer science graduates in the U.S.
50%?
Yeah.
Even from top universities?
Yeah, even from places like Harvard, apparently. Graduates who are often saddled with significant student loan debt, finding it incredibly hard to get a job in the very field that was supposed to be future-proof. This really raises an important, maybe difficult question. How do we reconcile this? On the one hand, you have this human tendency for slow adaptation, what Tenenbaum calls the gravity of habit, our ingrained resistance to changing how we live and work. And on the other hand, you have this incredibly rapid, almost brutal acceleration of AI capabilities and the market forces demanding adaptation. What does this mismatch tell us about the speed of the disruption? And what are the real human consequences for those graduates, for example? It completely upends the conventional wisdom about job security, education, everything, doesn't it?
It really does. And that brings us to what sounds like a fascinating psychological battle that Tenenbaum sees playing out across society, this tension between resistance and FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Exactly. Human nature generally dictates that we resist change, right? We often engage in self-deception, telling ourselves it won't affect me, or it's just like previous revolutions. We compare it to the Industrial Revolution, maybe assuring ourselves it will unfold slowly over decades, giving us plenty of time to adjust.
But there's a powerful counterforce this time.
Yeah, FOMO. Especially, he thinks, among younger generations who are digital natives and hyper-aware of technological trends. No one wants to be the last one left behind. Nobody wants to be the person or the company still using outdated methods, while everyone else is leveraging AI for massive efficiency gains, cost savings, or creating entirely new opportunities. This fear, this FOMO, will likely drive rapid adoption and force adaptation, even among those who might initially prefer to resist or wait and see.
So this internal conflict, our natural resistance clashing with this urgent fear of missing out, that's going to play out dramatically.
He thinks, though, that tension will likely accelerate the very changes Tenenbaum is describing, making the transition perhaps faster and more socially complex than previous technological shifts.
And finally, let's just touch on those personal reflections from Tenenbaum and Claudio Succio about living through this era.
Yeah, Tenenbaum shared that rather unique perspective, didn't he? Saying he wishes his parents had maybe waited 10 years to have him, so he'd be 10 years younger now. But otherwise, he's actually kind of content not to be younger and facing the full force of these changes head-on during his prime working years.
And Succio agreed with that sentiment.
He did, acknowledging the sheer headache, the stress, the constant pressure of forced adaptation that younger generations will inevitably face. They compared it to their own current stage in life, where they might feel somewhat, maybe saved is too strong a word, but certainly less directly impacted by the most intense phase of this transformation in terms of their careers. It really is a testament to the perceived scale of the disruption when even seasoned observers like them express a sense of relief, almost, at being slightly older during this particular historical moment.
Okay, so to try and recap this incredibly wide-ranging deep dive into Tenenbaum's insights, we've explored his compelling, maybe even confronting case for an inevitable, widespread deflationary process driven by artificial intelligence. We've seen how he envisions AI agents reshaping pricing through these global anonymous auctions, forcing a totally new level of competition and consumer power.
Right. And we've discussed how entire industries, from corporate travel and hotels to banking, advertising, even online education, could be fundamentally transformed or even disappear in their current form, and how fundamental elements like agriculture and healthcare might experience dramatic, potentially near zero cost reductions for their outputs.
We've also touched on the profound societal shifts this could bring, impacting everything from our disposable income and the nature of wealth itself to the future of service jobs like plumbers and even the functioning of our legal system.
All driven, he argues, by this relentless, fragmented, but ultimately unavoidable and highly competitive acceleration of AI adoption across the globe.
So, the key takeaway for you, the listener.
Well, this isn't just some abstract economic theory to debate. It's really about trying to understand the profound shifts that Tenenbaum believes will impact your daily life, your career trajectory, the security of your job, and the fundamental value of your money. It's about being aware, being prepared perhaps, for a future where the economic rules of the game might be fundamentally different. A future where efficiency is absolutely paramount, and where our traditional notions of value, labor, and wealth are being completely redefined before our eyes.
And as we conclude this deep dive, maybe here's a provocative thought for you to ponder, building on Tenenbaum's ideas. If the true measure of wealth really does shift away from how much you earn in a traditional job and towards how much your fixed income, whether from investment, state support, or something else, can actually buy in an increasingly deflationary world, what new forms of value will humans create then, when our basic needs are met far more cheaply? What becomes the new currency of purpose, of meaning, when the fundamental costs of living plummet? Something to think about as you navigate the unfolding